Let's paint this cobblestone floor. And I got a little sidetracked with that phone call when I was telling you about all the paint mixtures and how we work and developing the palette. And so I forgot to tell you that our surface of the palette is glass. What it is we lay a piece of glass on a white shelf board that you get at Home Depot. It's the melamine shelf. Because we paint on a white canvas, it's nice to mix your paint on a white ground, because then you know what your paint's going to look like when it gets up on the canvas. So that's why we lay the glass on top of the white shelf board. And that is, mine's 4 feet long and 20, I think it's 20 inches wide. And then the glass is 18 inches wide, so it doesn't come right to the edge. And the glass is 1/8 of an inch thick. You could also use a 1/4 inch glass. And we just have it cut at any place that has glass. We ask them to cut it, and then they sand or finish the edges so that they're not sharp. And that's what we mix our paint on. It's very easy to clean up. We get the paint scrapers at Home Depot that are used for getting paint off of glass. It's called a paint scraper. And that, when I mix my paint, when my palette is all messy at the end of the day, I can just take my paint scraper and scrape all that up, and I have a clean palette ready to get started for the very next day. So we mix all of our paint on glass. That makes it very, very easy. Okay, I am starting to cover the floor, the cobblestones, and I'm using my cooler blues and blue greens back toward the back, because I want that part of the floor to go back. And actually, I have a picture on my laptop from in Tuscany that is a really great cobblestone street that I refer to. If you're painting realism, I have to work from photographs. Now, maybe a lot of artists can make it up, but I am not able to do that. I have to look at reference and to get things to look like they're supposed to. So I have my reference on the tabouret next to my easel and next to the palette, and I can just refer to that as I paint. I'm applying the paint with a lot of texture, because I want this, since this is cobblestones, I want it to be very rough and get the feeling of the old stones. Get a little bigger brush here, and I'm making a little darker mixture of my mud plus the cadmium orange, because I want the foreground to be a little darker. And then I'm going to have the sunlight's going to be pouring into the painting from the left. Now I'm working around, I'm going to have peonies in here, so I'm working around those. And I add some of my little greens and different colors. We want this cobblestones to feel like they're very old and like moss has covered them, but I'm keeping this generally warmer in the foreground because I want it to come forward. Now, making the back edge of this dark area is going to be a little bit bluer, again, so that falls back. And I'm bringing some warmth into the front here. Now let's start bringing some light in. This area back under the flowers is going to be a little darker. Up under the leaves. It's cooler. You can see how I can use the corner of that square brush to make smaller brush strokes. Get some blues back in there. I clean my brush with tissue. clean brush gives you clean color on the canvas up in your painting. I'm just smooshing the color up there. Doesn't really matter at this point, I'm just establishing my light and dark. I'll come back in and add the crevices between the individual cobblestones. Mixing a little bit more paint. I didn't have quite enough for what I want here. I want a light area, but not quite as, not real light. So I've got my paint mixed, and again, this is a mixture of my cadmium orange plus mud plus white. I'm getting a little bit smaller brush. I'm going to bring some cool on the back edge of this front shadow. I'm going to have a little shot of light just zipping through here. Let's get our dark in here. That covered. I have to make sure to go back and cover all those little spots that the white canvas shows through. I'm using my dark because that's going to just work into the crevices of the individual cobblestones. Let's come back and start adding some lights on these. Now this is a mixture. This is my mud plus cadmium orange plus a little bit of phthalo blue, and it just gives a little softer terracotta color. Just that drops back, little grade. I want my more rich color right here where the light's hitting. I let the brush just kind of dance across the texture of the paint. I want to give a lot of texture like this, the sunlight's catching the tops of those stones. The light's coming in at a little angle. Going to soften this edge just a little bit. That back edge goes back. And I want a little more light right in there. Let some of that light hit back in there. And then this is a shadow. This building and these flowers and all cast a shadow across. So I'm using some of my darker terracotta color. Just make the front edge of that shadow a little bit darker, a little warmer. So that now is going back. Okay, let's start adding the little crevices. First I'm going to start putting the ones in that determine my perspective. So you can see my perspective lines back up on that little tile floor up there. So I want basically my perspective lines to follow that, and then they're going to start curving around. So this is going to be a little curve as we come around. just slightly, not a big curve, but just a little bit. So here and there, I just want to establish my perspective. And again, these lines are not real accurate, distinct. Just kind of indicating, give the impression. I'll use a little smaller brush as we go back. And it's not going to be as detailed toward the back. Just kind of giving, really toward the back, all you're going to see is the really deep dips between each of the stones. As we come forward, you start seeing more of the crevices, but I don't want to outline each and every individual stone. You just want to be impressionistic with how you do this. You want to give the indication of them, but we don't want it to just look like little outlines. I love cobblestone streets. I'm so entranced when we travel in Europe or Tuscany or Provence. I love those old stones. They're difficult to walk on, but they're so beautiful. Just the way that light catches them, and they're particularly beautiful after it's rained and that light comes out and all the reflections. You can see that light kind of bouncing across the stones. And I come back and I catch a little bit lighter on the stones that, now that I've got the indentations in between them, I can throw a little light on these where that sun skips across and catches them. Want this to be really rough because those cobblestones are very rough. Well, I think that pretty well has us in there. I may come back and do a little bit more on it, but that is basically finished. The cobblestone floor I want to be just very rough and just an impression of those stones. Thank you for following along. I really appreciate you subscribing to my YouTube video, and also feel free to ask questions in the comments section, and also visit my blog. The address is on the very last frame of the video. You have a wonderful day and happy painting.